All right, ladies and gentlemen, we might make a start. Welcome to the AIIA ACT branch. My name is Heath McMichael and I'm branch president. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge a good turnout this evening from members of the diplomatic corps and including the ambassadors, colleagues of Speaker from Mexico, Argentina and El Salvador. Well, time flies, as they say, and all of a sudden it's 35 years since the beginning of APEC, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. As an early example of regional economic cooperation, APEC has survived a lot of challenges, from COVID-induced economic downturns, the rise of protectionism around the world, and the emergence of mega-regional trade arrangements. Now, Peru has put up its hand to host APEC Peru 2024, which is the third time, in fact, that Peru has volunteered for the task. Maybe it's because Peru has some unfinished business in APEC, whether in driving growth through digital innovation or creating opportunities for small enterprises. But there also, it seems, there are some interesting new themes. Importantly, for one of APEC's developing member economies in Latin America, it looks like there will be a sharper focus on the social impacts of development, particularly for women and youth. Well, we are honoured this evening to have with us the Ambassador of Peru to Australia, His Excellency Mr Vitaliano Gallardo Valencia, who will give us a snapshot of Peru's goals and aspirations in its host year of APEC. The ambassador is a career diplomat with 30 years' experience in Peru's missions in Ecuador, the United Nations in New York, the Organization of American States, and as Consul General in Paterson, New Jersey, in the US. He's been a very energetic ambassador in Australia since taking up his credentials in February of 2022. Back at home, the ambassador has been in the Foreign Ministry of Peru, Director of Security and Defence, and Director General of Peruvian Communities Overseas. He's also served in his Defence Ministry in the International Relations area. The ambassador is a graduate of the Catholic University of Peru and completed postgraduate studies at the Sorbonne and New York University. So that's all from me, except for some words of housekeeping. As per our normal format, the ambassadors will speak for about 25 minutes, including some videos, I believe. And then we'll go to questions from participants here in the room and also those of people joining us online, who please use the Q&A function on Zoom when you do that. So we aim to finish at 7 p.m. In the meantime, over to Ambassador Gallardo.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. It's really a pleasure to accept this invitation and be accompanied this evening with a distinguished guest like my colleagues of Latin America and also our High Commissioner of Tonga and representative of the other Central American and South American missions, and also some of the distinguished members of the AIIA institution here in Canberra. I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and emerging, and those who also have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community belongings, who may also be attending here today. I want to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting here today. We have, at least in general, 4 parts. You are going to see 2 videos at the beginning. The first one is an introductory video that proves you what you have mentioned here, which is how evolving subjects and actual areas of work APEC has been handling, and what is the importance of the youth currently in these new challenges APEC has been discussing and proposing public policy. And at the end, it's how Peru has been trying to offer for the third time, the venue for an APEC meeting. What is, I think, the connection? It's in the main part of my presentation. Those items that has been chosen for Peru presidency as part of those contributions we want to do in this occasion to connect the needs of our populations and what the public policies need to offer to them, which is growth, inclusion, and sustainability for the future. Then please, we can start with the first video.
By high-tech monitoring and image processing within smartphones, we provide the optimal solutions for farmers so that anybody can grow high-value crops in smartphones. By using our software, farming gets super easy.
We have two core technology. One is using satellite data, analyzing soil chemical index, and using high-resolution satellite data, we're making farmer polygon automatically. This technology is patented.
We transform the bio waste in our farm to be a part of the organic compost and create innovation to be value waste, not zero waste. From now on, we will apply our model to the 6 of Royal Development Study Centers.
We believe adapting the plant circular green model to local contexts, taking into account local constraints, development conditions, and cultural aspects, is crucial to ensure its long-term success.
With only 2 square meters of grass, we can generate 25 watts for hours without use of pollution batteries. Imagine the home, parks, and stadium with only power of the plants.
We provide a farming as a service model to our clients, offering data-driven farming technologies with a customized field and design option. Implementing the smart farming system at our client site help them cut down their food waste by 30%. It's a big honor winning the APEC BCG award.
What is Mr. Astor doing is using the photosynthesis as the origin of energy. That means you can have the grass in your patio and you can illuminate your own house. That is what has been recognized by APEC as an element to show how the contribution of the youth with technology could improve the conditions, the living conditions for the people, especially in rural and remote areas. Well, this presentation put us more or less what is APEC doing for our own societies, meaning helping us to build cooperation, knowledge of what we have as responsible governments, opportunities to offer to our people, and then cooperating among us could create these opportunities to take knowledge of other experiences and share and disseminate these experiences for helping us in our own path to continue our economic growth. I want at this point make an introductory background that allow me to explain the priorities has been chosen by Peru. First, I want to mention that Peru is part of the APEC thanks to the support of the members of APEC. In 1998, one of those visits convincing the members was the visit to Canberra. for talkings between our ambassador, Luzmila Sanabria, one of the diplomats in charge of gaining support for our application, visiting here the government of Australia. And since then, Australia has been supportive of the Peruvian participation on APEC. I want to mention three distinguished diplomats has been part of our chairmanship team. Australia sent one diplomat each of the years Peru has been hosting the APEC. The first one was David McLennan in 2008. David McLennan has been decorated with the highest decoration of the government of Peru. He currently is the CEO of the city of Vincent in Western Australia. Jeremy Dicker, another diplomat of Australia, has been part of our team in 2016. Jeremy has now retired from the civil service and has founded the podcast International Intrigue, which is very good. You can follow him. And currently is serving Tani Reid, who has been usually the master of ceremonies in our APEC events, because obviously as Australian, she is fluent in English. Also, distinguished Peruvian diplomats I need to mention here. I already underlined the participation of the ambassador, Luzmila Sanabria. But also I want to mention one of my predecessors as ambassador here, Luis Quesada, who has been the SOM APEC in 2016 and has very good friends here in Canberra. Also the current SOM chair, Carlos Vasquez, who has been serving as Consul General in Sydney, and Gino Arciniega, my colleague, Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy, who is currently Executive Coordinator of the APEC Summit 2024. And that has not been only work done in Peru, but also here, the officials of the APEC area in DFAT, and it has been Helen Stiliano, who just finished her term, one important supportive voice for Peruvians' priorities, and you, Kit, yourself, for having working as part of the Australian government in the APEC in 2016, who knows very closely what the cooperation and what that means in our bilateral relations, this kind of opportunities Peru has been hosting. And I should be welcoming also the new appointee, Mrs. Elizabeth Ward, who should be for sure joining this list of important diplomats working in this endeavor. We are finding now APEC, but it's good to remember what are the origins. APEC was one initiative that has been taken and leading by a Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, that has been hearing the voice of the business sector. APEC is one of the proposals of the business sector that has been recognizing that the format we have in the Pacific Rim could be led by the private sector. And the private sector needs to maintain and keep their own space in order to motivate the governments to think about what could be the mainstream areas we can join together and build our region. Our region, meaning the area of Pacific Rim, needs, at the end of the Cold War, this initiative. And it just, depending where you are measuring, 2 or 3 days before the fall of the Berlin Wall, that the first meeting has been convened here in Canberra in November 1989. For doing what? At that time, the Uruguayan round has been still in the former format of the tariff agreements in Geneva, the predecessor of the OMC, the WTO, that has been the leading process on discussing about trade and investment especially. And then since then, the agenda has been growing. That includes later on finance too. But we have been recognized that with the attention of the governments. Some of the policies has been proposed by the business sector, could be someday see the day. Then thanks to this initiative, the ministers started to gather in here in Canberra, but it was the US that after looking what happened in the world, that they has decided to create the summit of the leaders. The Leaders Summit has been something that has been proposed by the US administration. It has been recognized initiative of Madeleine Albright during the Clinton administration to create this possibility for the world leaders to talk among themselves in a personal way. After finance, and especially close to our ages, digital economy and e-commerce, the youth, inclusion of the women has been joining the agenda, and obviously climate change, sustainability, and the change of the source of energy. We have to say that because if it is not mentioned, we are not going to be able to understand what could be the priorities we have been proposing. Please, we enter into the PPT, please. Why is important for Peru? Why? We recognize that there is a forum that we can gather 2.95 billion people. And we are talking about the coordination or the exchange of experience of 52% of the world GDP economies. 40% of our world trade is going to gather in an APEC summit. What we are going to see as part of the agenda currently, in a broader sense, we are going to see that by the windows, the reality of the words come to APEC. The diversity of the membership, it's going to include very of the challenging circumstances that the dialogue among actors are now organizing our region. But a part of the political and diplomatic and geopolitical issues, they have strong economies participating here. And that is the main issue, is economy here. But this economy needs to be open for a technical cooperation. That means also that we have to recognize that the trade and investment and finance by itself is not going to address the issues of the inequality in our societies. Then we need to have this approach of inclusion, because we have to recognize that different sectors insert itself in the globalization in different ways, and they are vulnerable sectors. Women is one of that. First Nations peoples are others. Youth are others. People living in farms, in rural areas, other. Then we have to have a vision that we can include them in this process to making our economy inclusive. Trade and investment promotion never stops. And it's thanks to the APEC that we have to recognize that the CPTPP has their back origins. That means that the APEC is like the farm. We plant a seed, we start a discussion, we find like-minded countries, and then we propose in other multilateral fora how to continue our discussions. This is one of the positive aspects of APEC. It's that we can have these kind of exchanges. The agreements are arrived by consensus, but there is no binding element here. Then we can continue to improve what we have agreed, or we can find coalitions in different other forums. For instance, it's in the dynamics of APEC that it has been reinforced the care groups in WTO. That means that we are permanently trying to stimulate the flow of goods, services, capital, technologies, and pushing for downside the barriers. Obviously, technology and digital economy is part of our agenda currently, and we have to support initiatives to improve the public policies. Next one, please. You can see that Peru has joined in 1995 as an expression of their own foreign policy, recognizing that in a world open to a free market and benefits from the trade has created in the Asia Pacific a positive dynamic. Then we have been make our bet to building our linkages through APEC. Key achievements: commercial exchange between Peru and APEC economies has grown at an average annual rate of 12% since 1998. 67% of Peru global trade is with APEC region. Please, next one. We also have trade agreements. We have 10 bilateral free trade agreements with Australia, Canada, China, the US, Chile, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Thailand, Mexico. And thanks to CPTPP, we have enlarged this and enhanced this connection with Brunei, Malaysia, New Zealand, and Vietnam. We have been including in this process 2,200 Peruvian small and medium enterprises. In speaking about tourism and investment, APEC-related investments reached 9.4 billion by 2022, 30% of the Peruvian foreign direct investment, and 49.1% of Peru tourists coming from APEC economies. Next, please. The leadership role is proposing those discussions could be organizing the main themes of the year meeting. Peru has taken over the chairmanship in 2024 after the US, and the US after the Thailand. Then we have a very good set of chairmanships. And then we are preparing to hosting more than 160 meetings of different working groups and sub-working groups. And that could include the more visibles, which are the Economic Leaders Summit, the CEO Summit, and 10 ministerial gatherings. Let me also mention, in relation with the CEO Summit, some of my conversations in my last trip to Brisbane, and I have the opportunity to chat with the chairman of the Invest and Trade Queensland. And he has been participating with their own team in the ASEAN Australia CEO meetings last week in Melbourne. And he has been also participating in San Francisco CEO Summit. And he has been witnessing the importance of the person-to-person connection among CEOs and representatives of governments for starting conversations and enhance with the connections, new opportunities through trade, through investment, through this kind of exchange, expanding their own connections and knowing and sharing experiences for improving the offers the government has in each one of our economies. Next, please. Now I'm going to enter into what is the theme for Peru now. Empower. Empower means taking into account what the areas we need to continue to work, include having an importance recognition of those populations need to be pay attention and grow, because as you mentioned, after the COVID, all the economies are suffering from inflation, has distributed some bonus for population without working, and then we have stress on the fiscal balance. And we have been suffering those constraints coming from the political and diplomatic areas. We know that there is conflict in the world, and that has been put pressure on different aspects of our economy. And then we need to continue to be abide by our own national task to provide growth and stability for our own populations. Then the priorities of Peru are trade and investment for inclusive and interconnected growth, innovation and digitalization to promote transition to the formal and global economy, and sustainable growth for resilient development. Please, next one. Then we are organizing all those meetings for having some deliverables and initiatives that we can see adopted at the end of those process all the year round. What are the strategic outcomes we are working on? I'm going also to pass. One is in relation to the transition to the global economy is the roadmap. APEC needs to agree on a roadmap for helping the transition to the formal and global economy. In relation with the second priority, the strategic outcome is the principles. We have to agree on principles for develop low carbon hydrogen policies. And in relation with the reducing food loss and waste in the Asia Pacific region, we need to be more efficient to assure food security. And also we have to take a new look of free trade area of the Asia Pacific. I'm going to make a little presentation of some areas we are showing to you to see how deep the discussions could address these concerns. Specialists gathering during those meetings are going to discuss. I am going to enter in what are the areas we are looking as part of the building this roadmap to promote transition to the formal and global economy. Please click on APEC roadmap. Please, next one. In this roadmap, we are considering these points. Next, please. Balanced, sustainable, and inclusive growth. We have to assure. Accelerating APEC actions. We have to have an approach that includes the whole society and the whole system. We have to continue to be asking and requesting the collaborative work with all the economies. Guidance for the future projects. Reference guide for policymakers in policy formulation. And we have to find the endorsements of the leaders. Next, please. We are building in this approach with the progress made in the last years in the Putrajaya Vision, Aotera Plan on Action, and the Leaders' Declaration from different gatherings. And I want to mention, because I am from Latin America also, La Serena Agreement from Chile that built on the participation of the Agreement on Trade. You can see the key areas we are trying to build and the cross-cutting enablers. Next, please. Those are the elements of a structural reform to be promoted. You can see competitiveness, regional cooperation, environment of business as important elements to go to the formal, to the global economies. Next, please. We continue to work on strengthening trade facilitation, cross-border trades, and investment. Next, please. In the access of finance, we have to assure digital finance inclusion. We need to work on opportunities and best practices of fintech. And we have to promote taxation reform, reducing regulatory burdens, and increasing digitalization of tax administration, and among others. Next, please. As access to public service, then you need to guarantee that inclusion to formal, to informal and informal, to become an informal. We have to recognize things like job placement services, networking, mentoring, inclusion in education, promoting access to health. We know what is the impact of that now after the COVID period, enhance a sustainable and inclusive social protection framework and development to promote transparency and accountability in delivering the public service. Next, please. Innovation and digitalization. It's an important recognition that we have gaps and we have to improve our conditions, higher efficient, simplification of procedures and reducing costs in e-formality, and also adopting measures to better cope with the impact of new technologies also. Artificial intelligence, for instance, now is one of the new key elements we have to address. Next, please. Those are the informal actors we are recognizing important in our economy, needs to be taken into consideration: tourism, agriculture, micro and small enterprises, women, youth, local communities, people with disabilities, and others with untapped economy potential too. Next, please. Because we are talking about a complex approach, we are doing now this exercise to recognize that there are cross-cutting issues on APEC. Different aspects, either capacity building, policy and regulatory framework, innovation and digitalization, and also how to achieve a global network. Next, please. We are proposing that we can have an agreement of 5 years and progress 3 years and full review every 5 years. And speaking about many elements of cooperation among the working groups in the APEC, you can see here the dynamics of interaction among different group of discussions. Next, please. Next, we are coming back to our... The others are shorter. I want to let you know the flavor of the complexity of the discussions held in APEC. It's not a simple issue. It's, by the contrary, reflecting how the business sector see the different contribution of specialties, experts. That is the reason this process builds connections between academia, business, and government. And this is the synergy that makes APEC a seed planting process in every aspect we are touching. We also want to mention, only mention because it's a long presentation, for instance, in relation with the participation for the low carbon, what are the elements we are trying to see in the discussions? Definitions and standards for hydrogen, value chain of the hydrogen, domestic hydrogen roadmap and strategies, mapping of activities and raw materials, and also infrastructure connecting with the exploration of hydrogen, certification frameworks for international standardization, cross-sectoral standards, green hydrogen derivatives, successful, effective, enabling conditions, and cost-competitive markets, financing, and investment in new technologies and energy sources. Next, please. In reducing the thought loss on waste, we have to agree on what could be the principal documents, and then we are moving to the use of technology and innovative approaches, gathering this aggregated data, domestic supply chain management strategies, public-private partnership, governance and institutionality, and education, awareness, and capacity building. It's impressive how you can see how the satellite, combined with information about the quality of the soil, could lead you with many improvements in the agricultural and technology applied currently. And that there are a lot of things to learn how to do our job. Next, please. In relation with it's still building the last part, then we can continue, please. Peru has considering that this complexity needs to be transmitted to the citizen. This effort to me to bring you this presentation has allowed me to understand why this complexity need to be shared with the normal citizen. Because if not appreciated in that way, people is going to see people gathering and agree on another gathering. But this is not the purpose. The purpose is to involve and gain support for this process, joining people to share their own experience and try to continue to be part of this process. If you don't pass the baton, new generation is not going to continue this effort. It is an Australian proposal that gained momentum, but has found fertile land and has continued to grow. That Peru is doing, and you are going to see this kind of invitation for sharing with the population in academic settings, what it is doing in APEC discussions. Then we are convening cultural organization, academic, and technological events in Peru. We are inviting minister, official, experts in participating in these events are going to be part of the Peruvian experience in APEC 2024. And we are involving local communities and regional governments also in Peru. I'm going to share with you also the list of the meetings we just discussed in the foreworks, that there are key elements. The meetings of the SOM are organizing in Lima, in Arequipa, and the end also in Lima. But you are going to have special meetings. This year, for instance, in Arequipa, the Minister of Trade and the Minister of Women are going to meet together in order to improve the deliverables on the inclusion of the women in the trade sector. This part is talking about APEC by itself. But at the beginning of the proposal to APEC, it has been important the interest of Australia to promote a mechanism in the region to organize the growing process of the economies and the aftermath of the Cold War. But also, the government of Japan has supported at the beginning, especially in one of their administration, the Ministry of Industry, this idea. And the increased interest of the US and each one of the countries also has been joined by ASEAN. That means that this process with the, at that time, members of ASEAN has invited that many other organizations could look into what it is the process into APEC in order to join the efforts. At our days, for instance, as Ambassador of Peru here, we can see the efforts of the Australian government participating in the dialogues with the Pacific Island Forum. And the different approaches and results of these events, we have been looking, as I mentioned previously, the dialogue with ASEAN, current members of ASEAN, the members of ASEAN gathering in Melbourne, and previously also gathering in Jakarta. And that is the way I want to introduce now why I am also going to refer to the Pacific Alliance. Because in the other side of the Pacific also, we have been looking for joining efforts to launch our own economic growth, looking for the Pacific Rim. Then please, next. I want to mention the Pacific Alliance because we have some informal meetings in the past, in 2015 and 2016. And we have a technical gathering in 2017. But the priorities change. And we, as a whole, in our dialogues as Pacific Rim, with the Pacific Alliance. And we have our own time for reflecting among ourselves. The reason I introduce you is because I want to mention two key areas we are looking that still we can perceive could be mentioned as areas that are connecting into the agendas between the Pacific Alliance and the APEC work in order to continue to let you as part of the academia and the former public opinion, those areas of potential. And this is a small and medium enterprises that are part of our reflections and agreements in the Pacific Alliance and women empowerment. And what could be the benefits for a convergence? Without any doubt, 3 of the members here, it's Colombia participating, it's Mexico too, Chile is also a member. We are also participating in this effort. And as I mentioned, Chile was one of the proposals of the Women and Trade Initiative among APEC. And certainly we can build some points of interest and contact. And also speaking about Latin America, our own challenges with the informal sector and different policies coming to conduct discussions on small and medium enterprises, because those are the size of those areas where the informality are more visible. Please, next. Certainly is what I mentioned. My intention is only to recognize there is areas that we can think together on empower women and helping the medium and small enterprises. Next, please. In the Pacific Alliance, Peru is holding now the chairmanship, and then what are working currently in the Peruvian chairmanship? It's in reinvigorated the participation of the private sector, strengthening the Pacific Alliance trade and competitiveness agenda, the development of the roadmap, promote the second edition of the Pacific Alliance micro, small, and medium enterprises exporter meetings, promote the updating of the name of the technical group that I mentioned previously. In relation with the empowerment of the women, support the organization of the second ministerial meeting on women empowerment and economy autonomy, strengthen the community of women entrepreneurs, and continue promoting the implementation of the roadmap on gender equality. I want to mention also, because in the previous one, in the Pacific Alliance, it's an important presence now of Singapore as a partner that has been by consensus adopted. That means that we have strengthening the connections. And Singapore, it's a very good example of what it is, this kind of synergies that we can build from both sides of the Pacific. And now I want to jump on the ASEAN and its importance for Peru. Why? Because recently Peru has been admitted as a development partner for ASEAN. That shows and confirms that once we accept the chairmanship, a period of strengthening our connections and linkages with the Asia-Pacific region is growing. And then I've been looking what has been mentioned as areas of potential cooperation with ASEAN as development partner. For instance, you can find again trade, environmental protection, maritime issues are very important for now polluting elements in the seas, and managing correctly our natural resources on the seas, disaster risk management, the challenges posing by natural phenomena coming with climate change is important, fisheries development, academic and student exchange. Then I think we can see in the gesture of ASEAN, please next one, that we have been submitted on 14 September in Jakarta, directly by hand of our previous foreign minister. And we have received on January 29, 2024, the acceptance to our request to become partner. That obviously committed us to continue to work with ASEAN and strengthening this strong sign of interest in this dialogue among both sides of the Pacific Rim. That makes me end my presentation. I want to share with you at the end a video to relaxing you and looking on what could be happen my task. I am here to invite the more broader participation of those who has something to help to us in this endeavor, obviously through your point of connection with the Australian process, but it is inviting you to join this effort that we are convening in Peru for gathering, thinking, and acting in favor of our citizens.
Quick one. It's a quick video.
Yes, quick.
Right. We want to leave time for questions.
Somos el nevado que se convierte en vida. Somos el río que recorre la selva eterna, vida diversa, infinita. Somos el mar que nos regala sus secretos. Somos milenios y milenios de historia. Somos tradición que perdura. Somos la chispa y la creatividad que nunca se apaga. Somos las manos que crean, transforman y construyen. Somos la fuerza que emprende, que sale adelante, siempre. Somos el plato amable servido en la mesa. Somos la melodía irresistible que te invita a bailar. Somos la cálida sonrisa que te da la bienvenida. Somos sol, somos tierra, somos mar. Y este año somos APEC Peru 2024, el punto de encuentro para reimaginar el comercio en la región Asia-Pacífico, donde sumamos esfuerzos para tener un comercio más libre, accesible e inclusivo. Este es el momento decisivo para adoptar un crecimiento sostenible, el momento de consolidar el tránsito a energías limpias y a una economía circular, el momento de afinar la ruta de nuestra seguridad alimentaria, el punto de quiebre para transitar a una economía global, formal e inclusiva, donde la transformación digital reduce brechas, donde la inclusión financiera empodera a las mujeres, donde las herramientas innovadoras impulsan el desarrollo del turismo. Durante este 2024 tendremos oportunidades para dialogar y reflexionar sobre el presente y futuro para la prosperidad de nuestras poblaciones y así tomar decisiones que beneficien a emprendedores, a las pequeñas y medianas empresas, a nuestros ciudadanos. Bienvenidos a Perú. Bienvenidos a la oportunidad de trabajar juntos en una región Asia-Pacífico próspera y sostenible.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for presenting what is obviously a large agenda for APEC this year. We'll turn to questions immediately, but I've got two to start the ball rolling with, two quick questions. At the end of the year, when the APEC caravan moves on to the next economy, I'm not too sure which one that is, Ben, but Korea, a very different part of the world. What will be the lasting benefit to Peru of APEC's, Peru's year of hosting APEC? What will be the main benefit in terms of the economy, the infrastructure, or the social welfare of Peru, in your own view? Second question, I understand Brazil is the chair of the G20 group this year, another Latin American country. Now, G20 has a focus on politics and security as well as the economy. But what are the links that Peru is generating with Brazil at the moment to make that APEC and G20 combination work, if you like?
Speaking about the benefits, I think the impact on the event dimensions of APEC and the decision of the government to share the venues is going to reinvigorate one of the key sectors has been damaging extensively by the COVID period, which is the tourism, the accommodation, and the hospitality business. This event is going to really bring additional activity for areas previously well known for their own capacity. For instance, that has been Arequipa, previously done their task as venue. We have been opening again and using extensively the infrastructure we have in Arequipa. Cusco, we have been choosing the area of Urubamba, which has been growing with new hotels and venues for enjoying the Sacred Valley in Urubamba. We have been offering Trujillo, also a colonial city with a larger industrial area, and one of the exporters points of Peru now. And also in the case of Trujillo, is going to make direct witnesses for those visitors how Peru now has reached the 10th position as agro exporter in fruits. Trujillo is going to allow the people to know how in 15 years we have been moving for hundreds of thousands of dollars to billions of dollars now in agribusiness currently. And especially the invitation for Pucallpa. It's an invitation to take first experience on the Amazonic region, and an area which has not only potential still now, but have all the richest presence of our native communities, and also a new culture is starting to be part of the main mixture of culture is currently Lima and Peru. Then visiting Pucallpa is going to let you know how our new big city in the Amazonic region is working to have sustainable development, inclusion of the First Nation people, and also a current infrastructure for organizing big events. Then the first item is that. The second is because we are participating with different settings, it's allowing the people to see what happened between 2008 and 2016 and 2024 in the Peruvian economy. And you are going to see the CEOs continue to be participants of the Peruvian growing. In this time, it's very important for Peru reopening the contacts after the COVID. Things have been changing a lot, and the decisions for improvement in investment, it's very important. I think that opens also for the other countries. And you mentioned one element, it's very important. We have been coordinating with Brazil in order to accommodate the dates of the meeting, in order to allow the best participation for both events. We are not member of G20. I cannot go further, but I'm looking also that there are some ways that we are connecting, especially in the economic side. That means that I think coming from Latin America, the view that we have for the new challenges we are facing is making us more conscious that why we need to put on the spot and very visible the demands of our citizens to provide growth and economic development for them. I think putting on the spot the development agenda could prioritize for us how we can arrange our needs for delivering as responsible governments in these days. Economic challenging, it's very difficult, a very difficult item, especially when you are living in Latin America and also in this part of the world. Democratic processes and change of governments and continue to building institutions and public policy with continuation government after government. Then I think it's important for us having this opportunity that having two big events, some of the leaders could organize visits in different countries in Latin America to take the flavor of our perceptions of the world currently and how we can deal with those perceptions in the multilateral arena. And that is important also for for Australia, because in some of our meetings, we feel that we share many values with Australia. And why we are prioritizing development is because we believe in the importance of a world that it is built under rule base, and that we can build development and growth only if we put in the front diplomacy, dialogue, and peace.
Thank you very much. Now, we've got time for some questions. Ernst, I see, was early, and then Rosemary. Yeah. If you could let us know who you are, Ernst.
Ernst Wilhelm, a member of the ACT branch. Thank you, Ambassador, for a very comprehensive survey of APEC and Peru's involvement. You mentioned early in your address the involvement of academics, business, and government. You also referred to inequality as an issue. But when you spoke of the themes and the outcomes, there didn't seem to be a great deal of emphasis on inequality. So my question to you is, to what extent is it intended to involve those community organisations that can contribute to the lowering of inequality? Trade unions, charitable organisations, many of the other community organisations that can contribute to lowering inequality.
Thank you for your question. It's implicit, and probably it's because I wanted to show the complexity that I not emphasize enough what has been in one of the slides. APEC as a process has a very important vision of their own work from 2040, and that is the Putrajaya vision. And that has made that the economic growth and the perception that we have on inequality, it's now part of our work itself. Meaning, when I mention inclusion, when I mention how to address the challenges for sharing the benefits of a free trade and market-oriented economies, is because we are conscious that we are working on equality work. It's not that we are not mentioned, that we are not conscious, and we are not based on this acknowledgement. It's because of that that we try to address with public policy that recognizing that could enforce providing literacy, digital literacy for the people. Recognizing that is that we want to include with an effective way women in the trade. That is the reason we recognize that there is rural areas also that makes them vulnerable for digital evolution and improvements, and the lack of infrastructure and connectivity with roads that make them less beneficiaries of those growth process. And then I should mention that those elements like the Putrajaya vision has made us part of consciousness and part of our vision, shared vision, this inequality perception.
Thank you. Rosemary, please.
I'm a member of the organisation here. I wanted to get down to really basic questions. How long does the event last? Is it a week or 2 weeks? And it's across 6 or 8 cities? And how many people do you think will actually come? So what are the dates? How long is the time? And how many people are we involving in this amazing event?
It's a year-long process. It's a year-long process that is the reason we are conscious that we are organizing 160 different gatherings for different working groups. And this process is having their moments of collecting the results. And there are 3 big senior official meetings in the process, preparing the deliverables for the summit at the end. And then the summit could be reduced, could be 2-3 days, but all the process is year-long. And that includes this invitation for different kinds of congregation. For instance, the business sector still continue to be organized in PBEC. The academic has their own gathering in order to collect their own membership participation. And when the working groups are committed, then they are going to fit the whole process with their own reflections. That also invite other organizations in the world to share on this occasion some contributions. The World Bank, OECD, other organizations start to feed in all this process too.
Well, we might, thank you, Vitaliano. We might draw a line under it there, given the time. I think the ambassador tonight has presented a clear picture of a very many moving parts in the APEC machine in any year, and particularly in Peru's host year. I think, from my point of view, at least, we could say that APEC for this year is in very good hands. And on behalf of the Institute, the ACT branch, I'd like to say thank you for coming and presenting your views.
Thank you.
Good luck with the free trade area of the Asia Pacific. As a memento, please accept this small token.
No, thank you.
Right. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Heath. And thank you for your.
Before everyone
attendance.
disappears, let me say that Tuesday, the 26th of March, is our next meeting, and we have Jennifer Parker from the think tank that deals with defence and security based in Canberra, called ASPE. And Jennifer will be speaking on the topic of Australia's naval capabilities and defence acquisition. So a very topical discussion. Hope to see you there.